But we'll start with some opening thoughts and that comment from Jayson Tatum. How'd you feel about it, Mazz, when he said the key there is to have fun? If we don't win, it's not the end of the world. We have other chances. Don't surrender to the idea that we have to win. Your thoughts?
Yes, to me, that singular comment encompasses everything that Jayson Tatum is, for better and for worse, and sort of illustrates the whole problem with the Celtics. Is that on the one hand, you look at them and you say, Tatum is who he is. He just, keeps showing up with the same sort of, even-keeled attitude every day, and that if you want some level of urgency from this team in Game 5, it's going to have to come from someone else. Because Jayson Tatum just doesn't operate that way, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I have no idea. What I can tell you is that listening to Jayson Tatum, watching Game 4, makes me nervous. That's what I can tell you. It makes me nervous. And if I were a Bostonian, which I am, but more importantly, if I were like a hardcore Celtics fan who was living and dying with every dribble, I would tell you that I would be on the edge of my seat tonight until I see it from them. I will be on the edge of my seat until they wrap it up, because this team has just done this too many times for me to believe that it's all over and now it's just a matter of time.
So you have some trepidation.
I do. I absolutely have trepidation, 100%. Now, again, do I expect them to sweep every series? No. So, in all probability, Game 4 was a hiccup. And they didn't show up. They didn't really engage. They did for maybe half of the first quarter, and then once they got hit, they kind of packed it in. And so, is it possible that they will then come out tonight with a renewed vigor, attack Dallas, go to the basket, win the game? Sure, absolutely. Would it shock me if they lost? No.
No, and it probably shouldn't. I mean, Friday night is, I think, indicative as to why they don't get the respect that a lot of Celtics fans wish that they would nationally, and why Jayson Tatum's probably never been a serious MVP candidate, because they showed up and didn't show up. Tatum, actually, I thought offensively in the first half was the only player that did show up, and then he packed it in too and sucked defensively, and he was getting targeted defensively by Dallas. But even the 96 Bulls were up 3-0 on the Supersonics, and that ended up going 6. So
we're just going to have fun kind of thing? These are the millennial Celtics? Then I guess it's good for Joe Mazzulla to lean to the millennial Celtics. Hey, guys, not a must-win. Isn't that fascinating that he's telling them? And he believed they wanted it too much.
Yep.
The sort of look from here is that they didn't give a crap. Where I think they look at it as just the opposite. They wanted it too much, and they got tight because of it. So Mazzulla leans into, have fun. Not the end of the world. Hey, not the end of the world if you don't win.
Right, you get 3 cracks at it. You don't have to win the next one.
If we don't win, it's not the end of the world. Don't surrender to the idea that we have to win. Interesting approach.
That's crazy.
In the NBA Finals.
I know.
But don't surrender to the idea that you have to win. Okay, if that's what it takes, I suppose.
See, now, if they already had a championship under their belts, if they already had the history of having won, I could easily just chalk up that win to they didn't give a crap. They're going to come home and bury these clowns, and that'll be the end of it. And I tried to take myself back to, growing up and what it was like with Bird if they lost a game and had to come home. Like, they lost Game 5 to Houston in '86. They had to come back here and play Game 6. I had no doubt they would bury them because they already had 2 championships under their belt. We all felt that way. This is different. Until they get that first one, I don't know if they have entirely what it takes to do it. I think this team does. I think they're better than everybody else. If they had Porzingis, I'd probably be a little more confident. And this idea of how they're going to use him tonight is obviously situational. Either way, they should still beat this team. But I don't fully trust them. I don't.
Did you see anything in the game specifically that made you nervous?
No, because honestly, no. I think it was really more than anything lack of engagement. The offensive rebounds by Dallas are a surefire sign that you just kind of quit. I mean, you're not even. There was one in particular where they all just stood there, and I'm assuming it was Lively. I don't remember. It was early in the game.
Well, there was a follow dunk.
Maybe that was it.
Where they all
just kind of stood there.
They showed this replay underneath the basket, and there's 4 guys looking up at maybe it was Exum. I can't remember who it was. Jones, someone. Came in a follow dunk, and they all just
they just stood there.
Yeah.
Like nobody even went after the ball. So when that happens, you say to get walloped the way they did requires you to be complicit. It's one thing to get blown out and lose by 20. It's another thing to get blown out and lose by 50. Or pretty damn near close to it. At one point, I think they were down 48 in that game, if that's right, which is preposterous for a team with that much talent to lose by 48 points, which is, again, what I would have preferred is that after that game, someone said, I'm disgusted with the way we played tonight. Right. It's insulting. We embarrassed ourselves. We're going to make sure it doesn't happen again. That would have made me feel better.
Well, Jaylen Brown, I thought, was pretty harsh on himself and the team after the game.
He was again. So it has to come from someone other than Tatum.
But I also think he's the real leader of the team.
Yeah, so. I don't disagree with that, and I do think that Brown struck a different chord in a different tone, and I'm a little bit more in line with him. He sounds like he's ready to get back out there. And so that's, to me is a good sign. But, Tatum is your best player when he says, we don't have to win the next one. I'm like, what?
So to answer that question for me,
don't surrender to the idea that we have to win.
that's today's athletes, though.
Crazy.
Great.
So the two things there, Tatum-esque, that stood out to me that I didn't like about that game, and one, he bitched way too much to the refs looking for calls. And more importantly, I don't know if you remember this, it was late in the first half. I feel like it was Derek Jones and him got into it, Jared.
Yes. And Tatum walked away, and Brown went and had words with him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I absolutely, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But also something, that wasn't like a hard foul that didn't get called.
No, it was more like, get off me. Like they were sort of like hand grappling, and Tatum's like, get out of there.
I think Derek Jones called him a bitch. Because it was something verbal, and he was like, get away from me. And I was like, oh, he just immediately got under his skin. And then, again, he bitched to the refs following that, and I was like, oh, something might have just happened there. So I made a mental note of that. I didn't like that.
Does anything scare you? Does Doncic scare you? Because Gasper said this last night. He said we still haven't really had the Doncic game. Haven't had the Doncic moment.
Well, him and Kyrie have sucked from three. I think collectively they're 25%. So maybe in that sense, I mean, Doncic has gone off in some of these games. I thought
so too. But he says we haven't had the Doncic takeover kind of thing yet.
So look,
not late.
I mean, maybe Gasper's expecting a 50. I don't know. If you like that clip, check out more videos from Felger and Mazz here. For more Celtics analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.